This is a Flying Cow production.
Book 1, Water. Book 2, Earth. Book 3, Fire. Long ago, Nickelodeon introduced a series called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It combined great anime-style animation, strong storytelling, heart, and humor. It was great, and everyone that saw it loved it. Until one day, a terrible movie came out which everyone hated. But my co-host Lauren Collins knows none of this because he's never seen the show. And that's why we are watching every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I believe this could be Lauren's new favorite show. Or at least top 20. Oh, I forgot to change the thing. Here we go. Hello! And welcome back to Comets and Cabbages here on the Flying Cow. My name is Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself, and I don't mess with dancing lizards.
Well, my name's Amanda, and I don't shed like Appa.
And I'm Lauren, and I did shed a bunch of hair yesterday.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
A very overdue haircut.
Yeah, I these lines at the beginning are often a thing, mostly because I don't think about the fact that I need to have one until right before. And so I'm just like the what I almost was like, I was like, and I have hairy pits, and then I was like, but I don't, because odd fact about me, I shave, because what's the point of hair in your armpits? It just gets gross. It's really annoying. It really is. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Well, I never remember that either, but that's why I am kind of thankful we have the intro, because every time we play the intro, it's like, oh, that's right. I need to come up with something for like 45 seconds from now.
Every now and then I'll have one, and then I think about it all week, and then the rest of the time I just forget until I say something.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say any of our video YouTube watchers might notice that I'm going to be drinking a lot of these. It's just water. I will say I'm on a bit of a new health kick. I've got a new exercise routine and watching my calories, and I'm drinking a lot of water. Yesterday was the first day I drank 8 cups of water, which is what my new diet app suggested. And I did it, and I was like, before I remember hearing the amount of water you're supposed to drink and just thinking that's so much water. But when I realized it was really just 4 of these, I was like, I can do that. Yep. So I did, and I will say I felt really good. I went for a walk. I had, a lot more stamina than I usually do. The one thing I will say though, I peed all day. It just I would be sitting there having taken no more fluids into my body and just realize I need to pee again. Shit.
Yeah, that's why I hate drinking the amount of water you're supposed to. So I'm like, but I don't have time to pee all day. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm just like, man, I do want to keep this up, but I got shit to do.
I'm supposed to drink more, and I have trouble just remembering to on a regular basis. And what my sister's suggestion was, and this has worked as long as the bottle's clean and I can use it, sure, is to get one of the bottles that has markings for per hour on there. It's this is where you should be at this point in the day.
Yeah, I will say those jugs that hold the whole thing, those are imposing.
Yeah, those are big. This one does need to be refilled at some point during the day, so it's still a normal-sized water bottle. Yeah,
like I said, it's not even a whole thing of this. It's literally just up to an inch or so below the brim, and I drink 4 of them, and that's apparently all the water that I'm supposed to have. And I feel pretty good. Feel pretty good about it. But let's get off of that topic and get into some other things. I will say When I say welcome back, I really mean welcome back. It has been a while, both since we have recorded and also since we have released. We do apologize for the gap. Unfortunately, our schedules just necessitated a bit of a gap, but also those of our podcast listeners might be thankful that we took a bit of a gap because the podcast is now caught up with the YouTube channel. So now if you're a person that might like to dip into a bit of both, they are caught up. They are in sync. It's going to be, excuse me, dropping at the normal time of the YouTube channel, which is every Saturday. It's available the moment you wake up on Saturday. It will be available unless, of course, maybe you live in England or Australia, in which case, give me some time. It drops Eastern time. I live in Atlanta, okay? Yeah, everything is in sync now, so the delay helped us with that. I will also say, occasionally in this bit, I like to talk about things that I missed or forgot or, just screwed up. And I will say in prep for last for the last episode, I had even made a note and just forgot to mention it. A very prolific voice actor provided the voice of Firelord Azulon, and that was Walker Edmiston, who may not be a name that is familiar, but I will say it is a name that I'm very familiar with. Huh?
Not one I recognize.
Yeah, I will say he's provided a bunch of voices in like lots of different. If you look up his filmography, very recognizable body of work.
You might not know his name, but you've heard him.
Exactly.
You've definitely heard him.
What I know him most from is, like I said, I grew up in a very conservative religious household. So I grew up listening to him on Adventures in Odyssey. And I will say the interesting thing about that is he plays at least two regular characters on that are the exact opposite of each other. And there are scenes, in fact, he did like a special thing once where he had an argument with himself. And it was really fun. But the notable thing about the last episode is that was actually his last credit. That episode is Firelord Azulon. He passed not long after that. So yeah, just wanted to shout that out because I thought that was an interesting thing of note.
IMDb has him credited since then for Toot and Puddle. I'll be home for Christmas or whatever that is.
I mean, it might have been released after. Yeah, I just know, like at least the Wikipedia claims it was his last work.
I don't know. Could easily be the last one recorded. No question.
Yeah.
I was excited for a second when I saw like, Great Mouse Detective, the top thing he is known for. What did he do in Great Mouse Detective? I wonder. Citizen and Thug Guard.
I was going to say a lot of the bigger things. He's smaller. He's what?
He was Ludwig von Drake.
Oh, in the magical world of Disney. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say I know he's done some bigger things, but he's also, often he's just filling out. But honestly,
Ernest Keebler, kind of a big deal.
Oh, the main elf in Keebler and the Keebler Elves. Yeah. I mean, he's done some very notable work, but honestly, a lot of the biggest name voice actors, a lot of their work is just background providing, volume to the world. Yeah, kind of thing.
Exactly. So you get back before the 90s, he has a lot of credits here. You're right.
Oh yeah.
He was in Land of the Lost. He was in Land of the Lost playing a character named Jefferson Davis Colley III.
Yeah. All right. But let us go ahead now. I think we've wasted enough time and get into the episode for today. Today we are talking about the next book, the next episode in book 2, it is episode 8, The Chase. It was directed by Giancarlo Volpe and written by Joshua Hamilton, and it premiered May 26th, 2006. And this episode, just to kind of give like a nutshell idea, basically it is the first episode in which we are seeing Toph as part of, Aang and the gang. It is her first time kind of gelling with the rest of the crew. And it is like the worst first day in a crew ever, because they are basically being chased relentlessly by Azula and her girl squad. And it leads to infighting and a lot of sleepless moments and some things like that. And there's also some very interesting encounters that happen in this episode. But that is basically it in a nutshell. Aang and the gang are basically just trying to get a good night's sleep, and they can't because Azula won't leave them the fuck alone. But I mean, basic thoughts going into this, guys. What were your basic, without giving anything big away, basic thoughts on this episode?
The first time I watched this, I was like, I don't like Toph very much. And then like,
sure,
it was just at the very beginning. And then I'm like, wait a second, she's awesome. Never mind. So
sure.
I had to actually pay attention to what was going on.
I mean, we'll talk about it, but
I freaking love Toph.
There's an argument that happens between her and Katara, and I mean, I said it before. I see both of their sides, and they're also both wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, I did actually end up watching this one twice. Simply because
I watched it. You often don't. I often don't. Watch one of these, and even if it takes us a while to record, you're just like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, and that's why I did watch it again, because it'd been a while since I watched it. It's been like 3 weeks or something like that since I watched it the first time, and I figured it was worth giving a second chance when I was up, and had time to watch it before this recording. Because my general reaction coming into it, I figured it wouldn't hurt to flesh that a little bit more, was that I really, really did not like it. And like, I'll give it a second chance just to, flesh out some of those thoughts, and reactions. And then maybe a second viewing would give me a slightly different opinion. And it actually did. It did improve on a second watching.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this is definitely one of those episodes that sticks out in my mind for two different reasons. Number one, because of the titular chase. They are being relentlessly chased by Azula. And I will say at some point we need to decide on a name for that. I've been toying with the Azula crew, the girl gang, lots of different things, but we can workshop it.
I've heard them referred to as Ozai's Angels.
That might have to be it. That's fun. But
that works especially well since we've only heard Ozai's voice really up till this point.
I mean, we've seen him a little bit more now.
We've seen him a little bit, but like that's pretty in character for Charlie.
Yeah, no, it's that's pretty great. But like I said, the titular chase, and also it reminds me of an episode of Battlestar Galactica.
33.
Yes, which would have come out before this. Because it was basically the first episode of the series, not counting the mini series. you know, that came out in 2004. So I've often wondered if, you know, the creators of this show are fans of Battlestar Galactica and they kind of patterned this episode after it, or, you know, I mean, I'm sure there are other episodes of television shows that have done a similar thing, but those two episodes have always reminded me of each other. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I remember it because of that, but I also remember it because of a very important conversation that happens later between Toph and Iroh. But we will get to that. But like I said, you know, starting off the episode, you know, it's basically just a regular, you know, we don't know what's going on yet. We just see, you know, Aang and the gang landing. Like I said, it's the first time they're with Toph. And we come upon this scene, and at first we just see that, like from a long view, that Appa is surrounded by a bunch of white stuff. And I was just like, what is that? What is going on? And quickly we discover that Appa is shedding. And I'm like, oh, okay. That makes sense. But you know, Appa is shedding, and they're kind of messing around with Appa's hair. They all have different opinions about it. And of course the boys, you know, do different silly things with the hair, which leads Katara to be like, I'm just so glad we have a girl now. And wouldn't you know it, Toph does the most obnoxious thing of all and shows off her hairy pits. Because Toph is nothing if not about breaking stereotypes. She's not about, you know, following the line of traditional male, traditional female. She is her own person, 100%. That is Toph. But yeah, bit of some fun stuff there. I did want to ask Lauren, in this kind of opening, is this one of the moments that annoyed you? Because I know often some of your least favorite moments are the silly, kiddish humor. I mean, I would say this is a little bit more sophomoric, but I did kind of wonder if this was a scene that bumped you, because there is quite a bit of that type of humor in this episode.
Yeah, and that was a lot of it.
Sure.
Not just this scene, but a lot of that sophomoric humor. The things like the anime sound effects, like when characters wave their arms in the air, bounce around, and stuff like that. I hate it. I hate it so much. And part of the reason, honestly, I went back to rewatch the episode was one of my thoughts in between. One, I'd read the thing about like Battlestar 33. And part of me made me think that that part of just the ominousness of the chase would remind me in a different context of like a Samurai Jack episode, something like that, where Jack's just being chased by someone and, you know, doesn't know who it is, and it's just a constant run. And that, you know, I thought in that context I could work it. I think every bit of that is weighed down and, you know, diluted by all the like kiddie humor that is just front loaded in this episode because of that, and then dribbled throughout.
Yeah. I will say, you know, and you've been very upfront about your attitude. That has always been a con to you.
Yeah.
I will say there is definitely a part of the audience where those type of anime elements are more of a pro. I would argue to say Amanda
that
would
is
be among them.
Like this humor, like Toph with the hairy pits, anime style. That's like all my kind of humor.
Oh yeah, no, I know there's an audience for it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be repeated across different shows. I mean, I have other friends who loved the old Teen Titans show, and it had those are the same elements that drove me mad about that show too.
I mean, honestly, the old, like when they had the storylines, that team, I love.
That was amazing.
Yeah. No, and again, when it was just sort of a straightforward superhero show, that was fine. When they suddenly wanted to do the exaggerated head, goofy anime stuff, like it's like, why is this being put in this show?
Are we talking Teen Titans Go? Because that's its own thing, and nobody
I
wants
like what I've seen of Teen Titans Go, but Teen Titans Go is just straight up a comedy.
Like, I will say, Lauren, there is an easy way to skip those episodes.
Yeah.
Because, and the creators of the show, if you ever read much about it, they give this away. If you ever watch an episode and the main theme is done in English, you know it's a regular, straightforward episode. If it's done in the Japanese, you know it's going to be one of the more anime-heavy, silly episodes. So you can just skip those.
Okay. That's good to know.
Because honestly, I mean, I will say there might be one or two that might have some story elements in it, but for the most part, it's just about being silly and having fun, those episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, if you've never seen it, the best episode of Teen Titans Go, which I've seen like multiple times, is the one where Robin explains how you can make money investing in real estate.
I've not seen that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back into the episode, it's at this point, you know, that as the Aang and the gang start, you know, getting ready for the night and setting camp, it's at this point that we start kind of the main antagonism of this episode, which is between Toph and Katara. And like I said, I think that they both have avid points. On, you know, one side, you know, Katara is making well, honestly, part of it is that in this first part of their argument, Katara is in no way like actually appealing to Toph or explaining why she's expecting her to help. She's just like, oh, I thought you would. Yeah, exactly. And believe me, I have learned, you know, as a teacher and somebody that has been around people that just don't get it, just telling people what they're not supposed to do or things like doesn't help. You got to give them clear direction. You often have to tell them why, because, you know, I understand Katara, you know, being frustrated that Toph is not helping because Toph is now part of the team. Whereas I also understand Toph not understanding the whole team aspect of it because she just sees, I'm an individual. I took care of my stuff. You don't have to take care of my stuff. So I shouldn't have to take care of your stuff. But, you know, that is a very individualistic way to look at it. And, you know, it's two different dynamics butting heads where it comes into the fact that they're also both doing things wrong. You know, when Katara does finally confront Toph, it's not in the more level-headed, you know, sugary voice that she comes off with at the beginning when she's just like, hey, I thought you would help. It's confrontational and yelly. And it's just like, well, you should have helped us, that kind of thing. And it's just like, okay, you didn't explain yourself very well, and you just walked away, and now you think the way to fix this issue is to yell at her? That's not going to work. But I don't know.
Having seen the next episode, I would think Toph should respond to yelling. That seems to be her preferred way of communication.
I mean,
I feel like she's never probably been yelled at. She's always been kind of the one doing the yelling.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I was about to say, I don't know that that's necessarily a two-way street for her. Often people
sure
that yell don't like to be yelled at.
I am certain Toph is a hypocrite on this. Yeah. By the way, spoilers, I don't like Toph.
Okay.
You don't like Toph?
I will say, you know, obviously, yeah, there's a lot more to go, but yes, we'll see. But I will say there's a point in this episode when I was just like, whoa, Katara, too far. There is a bit where, and I can't remember if it's in the first one or the second one, the second landing, but
I think it's the first.
There's a bit where Katara is like, "Oh, isn't it so pretty out here tonight? Too bad Toph is blind and can't see it." And I'm
that
like,
was the most
"Whoa."
epic burn. Like, damn, Katara, you
I'm
went
just
there.
like, we are burning the blind now? Low blow, Katara. My God.
I somehow missed that both times I watched the episode.
Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. So
yeah.
Toph is like in her little tent,
Yeah.
and Katara's just fed up. She's like, "Stars sure are beautiful. Too bad you can't see them, Toph." And then Toph like earth bends, and then she ends up like falling and stuff.
I was about to say she earth bends Katara in her sleeping bag to basically land on top of Sokka.
And Sokka's like, "I have nothing to do with this."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, during a lot of this, while they're all fighting, we often get scenes of Sokka being very smug that he is not the cause of all of the issues, because often
Sokka.
he is,
like,
and it's just
him.
like, yay, it's not my fault. But I mean, I will say, I will give that. I mean, at this point, I don't give that joke a pass simply because they don't know each other. Katara doesn't know that that's the type of humor that Toph will later use on herself. But, you know, it is a joke that she would tell. But like I said, at this point, they don't know each other. Low blow, Katara. That's not cool. That's not a joke you make with somebody until you know, until they make it themselves. And then, okay. Then as long as they're good with it, fine. But yeah, I'm just like, yeah, not a good look for you, Katara.
I can come around on that. Katara's delivery of her argument is massively deficient. Yeah. In fact, one of the bits that comes to mind is when she's trying to confront Toph at her tent, and Katara just completely blows up anime style and screams. Not a good look. No. On the other hand, like in terms of seeing the two sides, it's like, no, I feel firm. I actually feel pretty firm. Toph's just wrong.
I will say, while on, you know, if you just lay them out, ultimately, I agree with Katara. I think that a group working together is what's best for everyone. Yeah. But Toph is not used to working in a group. Nope. Yep. Toph is used to taking care of her own shit, keeping herself to herself, because if she doesn't, then her parents won't let her do anything that she wants to do. So I understand why she's individualistic. Yeah. I don't agree with the individualistic point of view, but I understand why she is that way.
This gets sort of into the conversation she has with Iroh later, is like, sure. I don't entirely buy that she's always taking care of her own stuff. She's grown up in like what appeared to be a pretty nice, well-to-do household.
But like, she didn't have like friends and anything or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, and I will say she has also, yes,
you know, staff, I presume, honestly, given the size of that.
You are right.
She never had to do anything for anybody else either. But
she has also been living a secret life that none of her servants or her parents or anybody had any knowledge of. So in that way, she has had to take care of her own shit because she's had to do it in secret.
Yeah. But when she's done that, she appears to have been very used to other people doing things for her. And then she was the one who volunteered to come join the team in the last episode.
Right.
You know, and so, and perhaps this is some of my like Boy Scout history from back in the day, but coming on, you know, going on a trip like this and suddenly being like, no, I'm not going to help make camp. No, I'm not going to help like make a fire or, you know, look for food or make tents. It's like, no, screw you guys.
I get where she's coming from though, because she left everything behind. Like, I'm Team Toph on all this. So like, I think she should, of course, be doing some teamwork stuff, but I also get where she's coming from. And I think Katara went too hard on her, except for that epic burn was pretty awesome.
I mean, how does she plan to eat? Is she going to go hunting separately just to get her own food?
Packed her own food.
She's willing to. That's the thing. She's willing. I kind of get the whole, like, I don't want to be part of the team. I am just here because I have to be, because I need to help this kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always really annoying. She does feel like she's doing the majority of the work because she's teaching. She's doing all. I get where she's coming from.
Yeah, just different perspectives.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit on both sides. You both seem to have taken different arguments.
I mean, I think they're both in the wrong, but if
Sure.
it came down to it, I'm gonna side with Toph because
Sure.
everybody else gangs up on her.
All right. Well, there you
And
go.
I come down on Katara's side because I think Toph's is I get to throw this out. Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. I have a Immanuel Kant picture over there on my wall, actually, from a comic book from Action Philosophers. And the notion of it was that one way to look at morality is, can you sort of take your personal moral decision, blow it up to everyone does the same thing, and is that workable? And Katara's approach here is, yeah, we're on this journey. We all need to, pitch in to do this together. Toph's approach would be just all four of them just independently do everything. It's not efficient. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think what Amanda's more saying is that she understands where she's coming from and why she has this perspective. Not necessarily, which is the same thing that I said, not necessarily what she's doing, but why she's doing it.
Sure.
But I honestly, I was afraid that we were all going to err on the same side. So this is interesting conversation.
This is better podcasting. Yes, I agree.
But like I said, eventually Toph is the one that realizes, hey, something's coming, because she can feel it. They all decide that at this point, they don't know what it is. They don't know that they're being chased, but they know that whatever this thing is, it's getting closer. So they err on the side of caution, and they're like, let's just pack up camp and let's move. So they move, they fly. And I will say they do this several times. Every time Katara starts her, and I will say this is one part that I definitely side with Toph. Katara will not let it go.
No.
Just absolutely will not let it go. And I'm just like, Katara, you're all exhausted. This is not the time to keep this argument going. Let's wait until we can get some sleep, and then let's have this discussion once we are well rested. But no, Katara won't let it go. She keeps busting back into this argument every single time they land. Within a matter of moments, Toph will, feel, the thing's still coming. Eventually, they do decide, well, let's just check out and see what it is that's coming after us. And they see a massive train-looking like thing that eventually reveals that it is coming out of this thing, riding giant lizards, is our crew of girls, which we have decided to call Ozai's Angels, which I love. I will say, and I pulled out this picture specifically because after this is the first time that we've seen May and Ty Lee since their introduction. In that first episode, we talked a lot about their personalities and things like that. But one thing that we didn't talk about that I really want to talk about is their hair. All of them. Because I will say Ty Lee, honestly, to me, has the most normal hair. It looks, it's very kind of, princessy or whatever. It's a long braid. But for the most part, her hair looks pretty normal.
It's like
yeah, sure. Yeah. And then Azula has this kind of, bun in the back. And I will say she's got that front bump, which was very popular in the 2000s. A lot of girls that I knew did that kind of where they pull their bangs back. And it's just this kind of, thing. Like I said, kind of like a front bump on their head. The one I want to talk about is May. Because in the front, it just looks like a normal, sleek, kind of gothy type haircut. But then in the back, it looks like at one point she made friends with a panda and now they have merged.
Yeah.
Because she's got this like panda bear thing on the back of her head, which is all part of the same hairdo.
So you're saying it's kind of business in the front, panda in the back.
Yes, exactly. 100% business in the front, panda in the back. But yeah, I mean, have you guys, first of all, have you ever taken a close look at these hairstyles? And then what are your thoughts on them?
Many times, and I've been trying to figure them out, especially May's, because like it almost looks like she's trying to do the Sailor Moon space buns with like the little meatballs on either side.
Okay.
But then she's got this whole panda thing around it, and her hair has always confused me.
I mean, I will say from the side, it makes a little bit more sense.
It's just that
you know,
weird
because
volume.
it's
It makes
kind
her
of like
head just look weird. It makes her head look like an alien.
it does, especially from a straight. I will say this is one of the few straight on views that I remember. I don't think that they do this view with her a lot, probably because they realized that it makes no sense. But you know, I mean, the weird, you know, panda ear thing is the thing that has always, I'm just like, I mean, I guess I understand that it's kind of like a Japanese or Asian style of look, but it's just, it's odd when you put it all together.
Yeah, it's a weird style.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, we discover that you know, they are coming after Aang and the gang, and you know, so they decide to fly off again eventually. You know, when the girls keeping up with them, Toph brings up, you know, something that they all should have thought about, because they mentioned the first thing we talk about at the beginning of this episode is that Appa is shedding. Nobody else thinks about the fact that because he is shed, the only person that points it out is the blind person that cannot look behind them and see the trail of white hair that is being left. She's the one that finally points it out, and you know, they decide to give Appa a bath, and you know, Aang decides to kind of you know, lead a secondary trail to kind of throw the girls off the trail. But at this point, Appa is exhausted, and before Aang even takes off, we see Appa clip the trees that he's just flown over. And I'm just like, Aang, what you do there, you take off the same way that Appa did, and then you veer.
Yep.
But I mean, no, he takes off and leads his hair trail in the exact opposite direction. And they're not fooled. And he's like, why?
I fully agree with you about that. That was silly. Yes. However, I would honestly push the bad strategy further back, which is that once they realize, oh, they're following us because Appa's shedding, and they're following us in their train car. The thing to do is to fly over a large body of water. Clearly, like not a river like they do later in the episode. That's like slightly wide. No, a large.
I was going to say not a very wide river either.
No, it's not. Fly across a lake, or fly out over the ocean or something, and then you turn back in and come back in. Basically, something where the fur is not gonna just sit on the ground, and their train car not gonna be super successful over like a lake or an ocean.
Yeah.
So, but no, they never do that the entire episode.
I mean, I will say at no point do we know, like, at this point, now that they've got Toph, they don't seem to have a new destination in mind.
I have no idea where they're going.
I will say eventually they are heading towards Ba Sing Se, but that's not their destination yet. They're kind of back in where they were before, you know, they were imperatively heading towards the Northern Water Tribe last season. They're just kind of like ambling along. I guess.
Ever since they left Omashu, no, not yeah. And I guess when they got to Toph, but yeah. But no, like if they had some destination in mind, I suppose I could forgive like the direction they're going, but no, they're not going anywhere in particular.
So they really could just fly over a body of water.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they don't make that decision.
They don't.
We'll blame the lack of sleep. They're not thinking straight.
I will say I can kind of give them that because they're making a lot of bad decisions in this episode.
One night of sleep.
Yeah, but I mean, if you are not used to, going through the whole, I mean, Sokka even says, I've never stayed up all night. That's never been a thing that I've done. Yeah. And I think it's also, we have to remember that this is, even though it has matured a little bit, this is still a kid's show. Yeah. And, to a kid, the idea of staying up that late, number one, is exciting. But number two, would probably affect them more than it would adults. Because
it affects me if I don't get any sleep. You don't want to be around me if I haven't slept.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just kind of, yeah, I mean, it's a little exaggerated if it's only one night, but at the same time, that is the reason that they're giving for the bad issues that are having. So I'm willing to go along with the show for this logic. But then, like I said, so basically, because Azula knows that they've split up, she splits up her own group and sends Ty Lee and May after, Appa, and she goes after the Avatar. And, when they split up, I will say, well, no, we'll get to that later. But
random thought.
Yes,
they're going to split up. What was the plan to reconvene?
I think it was just, I think it was basically because neither one of them really know for sure which way the Avatar went. So it's basically just like, catch up with these guys, subdue them. We'll meet back. I mean, they're going to meet back at their train.
No. I mean, Aang and the others. Like, what was their plan?
I think, honestly, at first it just seemed like, because Aang was just like, I'm going to lead a decoy trail, and it looked. We assumed that he was then just going to, after he got rid of the hair, go to where they were.
Just look in the sky, see Appa, and
that's what I figured. He was just going to fly around until he found them.
After, when he's down to the last bit of the hair, he sets up camp in the middle of this ghost town to, I guess, confront Azula. Yeah. Of course, he thinks that all three of them are coming after him. So I'm like, that's not smart planning.
Nope.
But like I said, they separate. And May and Ty Lee go after Appa. When they catch up, obviously at this point, Appa, I will say in this whole episode, the character I feel for the most is Appa. Mm-hmm. Poor Appa. He's the one that has had to, fly all night, keep getting woken up, all of this stuff. And then he gets a bath. And then he's like, but I still haven't slept. And he's carrying all these people. It's just like, oh my God, leave me alone. But he starts drooping, and that's when they see the river, and they're like, well, let's just get across the river because they're on lizards, and lizards can't swim. Little do they know, they are not riding regular lizards. They are riding dancing lizards.
Jesus lizards. They're riding Jesus lizards.
I will say, these lizards, the way that they go across, I know technically it's not dancing, but it looks, they do this little thing, and I half expect, I I grew up on like old school Looney Tunes episodes, and there is an episode I cannot remember, but there's like they're at like a farm and they're like looking at different aspects of the farm. And there's one where they're like looking at a horse, and it just looks like a regular horse. And they're having him do like different things or whatever. And then eventually he says something. I can't remember what it is. And all of a sudden, this normal looks like a regular live action horse. This regular live action horse suddenly breaks out into a song and dance. And that's what this moment reminded me of. I half expected these lizards to have top hats and canes while they're like wandering across this lake and just da 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 da, you know, because it's just ridiculous. This moment where they break out into this, you know, water ballet that they're doing. But yeah, you know, there's a confrontation between, you know, the girls and Katara and Sokka. And I will say, you know, eventually the girls are subdued by Appa, really. He ends up making the difference in this battle. But there's a bit where Sokka is fighting Ty Lee, and Ty Lee basically just chi blocks all of his limbs. And we have seen that when Ty Lee chi blocks, you know, a bender, basically it just stops their bending. Which, you know, Katara, this is a traumatic experience for Katara.
Like, she sounded like she was violated just about it.
I was like this. I mean, I kind of understand that when you have like a sense or an ability that suddenly is just taken away from you, and it was done by this person. I get that kind of feeling, but you know, Sokka is not a bender. So it basically just takes away the ability for him to use that limb. And, you know, she deadens both of his arms, one of his legs, and then he goes and like tries to headbutt her, and she tries to chi block his head, but he's just like, nuh-uh, too hard. Just like, because she like hurts her. She's like, ow. I'm just like, that's kind of funny. I mean, you know, obviously we've seen Sokka's rather intelligent, so I don't know what the joke there is, but it's still kind of funny that, like, yeah, Sokka's hard-headed at the very least, and it hurts. Yeah. But yeah,
certain Monty Python vibes off of Sokka just having like each limb.
I was going to say it was very Black Knight.
Yes.
I mean, if you hit a pressure point hard enough, you can't move it. So I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it just goes dead.
Yeah. And I think that's really what, you know, her chi blocking is just kind of that pressure point type of thing. But yes, those two are taken care of. I will say it's at this point that it's revealed that Ty Lee has a little bit of a crush on Sokka. I don't know. Would you guys ever ship them, Ty Lee and Sokka?
I mean, I love him with Suki so much, but if Suki wasn't in the picture, then sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'd ever, you know, what you would say, ship them. But, you know, going out on a couple of dates, you know, date a little bit. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. But yes, and at this point we catch up with Aang. Because like I said, he has like held up in this ghost town to kind of, you know, I guess lay a trap or confront, but he doesn't know that it's just Azula by this point. But before we get too much into that, do want to talk about a couple of things that we haven't mentioned yet. Number one, it is revealed in a quick scene that Zuko has been tracking the train. I just wrote down, oh, Zuko's here. But in that first scene, he doesn't speak. We just see him tracking the train, and that's it. Obviously, he knows that Azula and the girls are in there. But he's just tracking on his little ostrich horse. And you know, then at a certain point before the split off between Aang and Katara and Sokka, you know, Toph gets mad that everybody's kind of blaming her for the situation, and she decides to go off on her own. And at this point, eventually she comes across Uncle Iroh, and they actually have a really good conversation about, you know, accepting help and needing people. And, you know, Uncle Iroh is his usual sage self, giving very good counsel and wisdom and all of this kind of stuff. And I don't know about you guys, I really enjoyed this. I mean, it's not much. You know, you didn't necessarily need it, you know, but I do think that it's kind of fun to see Iroh helping them behind the scenes kind of thing. You know, because, you know, if Katara or Sokka had come upon him, they would have been a lot more trepidatious than Toph, who's never met this man before. You know, she doesn't know, you know, anything. She doesn't know that she should be afraid of this man, that he's part of the Fire Nation or anything like that. And, you know, they have a lovely conversation. And, you know, I think it's great. What did you guys think about this?
It really shows the kind of person that Iroh is, that he's just a kind, helpful person. Like, yeah, he may have a background in other things, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a nice you know, moment of calm in the rest of the episode. It was a nice conversation.
Yeah.
And how he knows how to like put things in perspective for everybody.
Yeah. I admit
exactly. Yeah.
It didn't seem to sync with me with what Toph's problem was earlier in the episode, because here she's complaining about people, you know, she doesn't need people to do things for her. But the entire argument earlier was that she wasn't contributing, not that she didn't want their help.
I think it's more along the lines that she doesn't want anybody to do anything for her, so why should she have to do things for everybody else?
Right. I mean, I think she's not seeing their side of it because she's just thinking about, you know, how it relates to her. She's not used to, again, working in a group. The one group she's ever been a part of
until now, like how she can benefit also.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, think about it. The one group she's ever been a part of has been her family, and all they've ever tried to do is keep her down. So I get it. You know, but yeah, like I said, good conversation between them. But I wanted to talk about that before we get back to the Aang and Azula confrontation, because they have a little bit of a fight, but eventually everybody comes in. Zuko first. It kind of becomes a bit of a three-way fight. And then eventually Sokka and Katara come in and help Aang, and then Toph comes in, and then even Iroh joins. And eventually it's all of them against Azula. And Azula is up against a wall, and it looks like Azula is, I mean, she even says she surrenders. But of course, she doesn't, because it's Azula. And she instead shoots lightning at Uncle Iroh. And I would imagine, based on what we see later, that the reason that this gets Iroh is because he's more focused on protecting the rest of the group and isn't expecting Azula to point an attack directly at him. Which is, I think, also the reason that Azula chose him, because she realized if she attacks any one of the other ones, you know, Zuko won't help them. And if she attacks Zuko, they won't necessarily help Zuko. But if they attack Iroh, pretty much everybody likes Iroh.
He's a neutral party.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like that would be the easiest way to get all of them off of her back so that she can escape. So that's what she does. And you know, they do react the way that she expects. They all offer to help Iroh, and you know, Katara is even like, I can heal him, I can help. And Zuko's like, no, leave us alone. You know, very much Zuko at this point. That's pretty much where the episode ends, except we do get to see that they all get a good night's sleep.
I think I read on the wiki that the moment when the four of them all blast Azula at once there, right before she pulls a Batman and disappears.
Yeah.
Is that I think is it said the only time in the entire series where like all four elements are like bent and targeted at the same target.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the first. But yeah, that's an interesting thing to bring up. But is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we move on?
Oh, Azula's impression of Zuko, like, don't you recognize me?
that was kind of funny. I must get the Avatar and protect my honor. Yeah, I'm like, and she's like, you can laugh. It's funny. But of course, the way she does it, it's so cold. And it's like, I don't want to laugh at anything you think is funny.
You can give me permission, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
No.
That's a trap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Azula just seems like the type of person that you never want to agree with. It's like, I just feel like if I'm ever on your side, I'm on the wrong side.
It's that old Onion headline about the worst person you know, but just made a great point.
It's like, yes. Oh no, I don't want to agree with them. But yeah, if that's it, then we will go ahead and we will move on to our first segment, which is, of course, our My Cabbages moment. My Cabbages! Which is, of course, the part of the show where we talk about our favorite or most interesting moment or scene in the episode. So let's see. Lauren, let's start with you. What was your My Cabbages moment?
I had in my head the next. I forgot which order these come in. So
okay.
I could just but man, a singular moment. Tell you what, even though I don't remember it all that clearly, the line that you referenced earlier when Katara mentioned, you know, it's a beautiful sunset.
The blind joke.
Wish Toph could see it. Like that is a strong word. So
I will say it's also completely against what you expect from Katara, because Katara is usually the person that's like standing up for you know, people that can't stand up for themselves. That kind of, you know, she's all about, you know,
Toph can stand up for herself.
Oh, 100%. But just the idea that she would go after Toph's blindness of all things, like that really seems like a low blow, but it really seems out of character for Katara.
Yeah, it's a cruel blow, but it's a well-written line. So we'll give it that.
Yeah. Amanda.
I also have to go with Katara's epic burn at Toph. It's amazing. It was like, that is a major burn, especially for you, Katara. Good job. I like it.
All right. Well, there you go. I am gonna go with the scene between Iroh and Toph. I actually really enjoyed that, and I feel like Uncle Iroh at this point, you know, as we said, you know, especially now that he's kind of had his break with the Fire Nation, we're seeing more of who Uncle Iroh is. And at this point, he's basically just everybody's uncle, everybody's grandfather. And to see him kind of imparting that wisdom. And I think at the point that Toph was at, it would have, I think, only somebody, an outside figure with Iroh's wisdom, is really the only type of person that could have helped Toph understand, you know, where everyone else was coming from. So, and also just kind of, you know, the way that he relates her situation to Zuko and all. So we get a little bit more insight into Zuko and what he's dealing with and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed that scene. All right. Well, then let us go ahead now and let us get about our Mako Award. This is, of course, the award that we give to our favorite or most interesting character in the episode. So, Amanda, we're going to start with you for this one. Who gets your Mako Award?
This one's hard. Ultimately, I'm going to have to give it to Appa. Poor thing, just like got shoved to the side. He had such a hard time this whole episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say I definitely considered Appa as well. Lauren.
Well, I'm going to echo Amanda for the second time here. I was also going to give it to Appa.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he put in some hard work. I also incidentally appreciated learning, I think this is the first time the show's established this, that he can't just fly out autopilot while he sleeps. Because I kind of wondered that in the past. Like, you'd think that might just be a thing he could do. But no, apparently it's not.
Well,
so
I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, at first when he's like drifting off, he just kind of like starts gliding down. But then when he falls asleep, they go into free fall.
Exactly.
So yeah, it is definitely some sort of active muscle that he is using. That
it has to be a conscious effort to fly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and it's been hard to tell in the past because Appa always kind of looks half asleep.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, the shaggy haircut, you know, doesn't really help. Yeah. I am actually gonna give this to Iroh. Because I know he's not in the episode very much, but his scene and, you know, he's the one that ends up, you know, relieving the tension in the episode. And he's also the cattle, because I said it and I stand by it. Azula attacked him because she knew he was the one person that they would all defend. And for us to reach the point in the series, for us to know that, you know, even the show is acknowledging, yes, we all know that no matter what side you're on, Iroh is the character everyone likes. So, you know, it's just kind of, you know, that and just what he's able to do in his short amount in this episode. I got to give it to Iroh. But yes, so now it is time to rate the episode on the Avatar State Meter. We can rate it anywhere from 1 to 5, 5 being the show at full power. 1 could deal it a fatal blow. So, Lauren, what is your rating?
All right. Was our last episode Zuko alone? I think.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And I gave that, I forget, either
you gave it a 5.
I gave it a 5. I thought I might have. All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I came into this. Part of the reason I rewatched the episode was I was honestly half inclined to give this a 1 or a 1.5.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not kidding when I said I really did not like this episode.
Okay.
On rewatch, some of a lot of the things that irritated me the first time still irritated me. They didn't get any better the second time round. But some of the, incidentally, one of them, for instance, which we didn't touch on earlier because we kind of got through the fight there at the end, was some of the fight choreography. Just the way it was shot, animated, of them fighting through the ghost town. I like that a little bit more. On rewatch. At the same time, I'm really super underwhelmed by like superhero fights where people just like throw energy bolts at each other.
Sure.
And that's really what a lot of this was just watching like air bolts and like lightning bolt just blast back at each other. The fire, at least, is, in my opinion, just a little more visually interesting than just lightning bolts. Even if they might be more powerful. So yeah, even the fight was underwhelming in a lot of ways. So Yeah, but between that, I think all the sophomoric comedy weighed against all the potential drama you had from the ominous chase.
Sure.
I think they were an ill fit together. The character drama, and then, obviously we differ on this, but I did not like Top's attitude in all of this, especially as a new character in this show.
Sure.
And even as some things I didn't think through until we were talking through them, and I realized some of the plotting here does not entirely make sense. Like how does everyone end up back at the ghost town they did not know they were all going to? It's and how they all get there at the same time, like the fact they're on very different means of transportation. You know, that's a more minor issue, but yeah, on the whole, just like there are the elements here of like what I think could be like I said, compared to 2 earlier, I could imagine a good Samurai Jack episode being built around like this ominous chase between some mechanical device that will not stop, right. And can't escape it. But everything else that was put on top of that, I didn't care for. I'm giving it a 2.
Wow. Okay. Amanda,
I'll give it a 4. I thought it had some really good stuff.
All right. I am going to give this a 3.5. I think that it's a little better than a typical episode. Like I said, it's definitely one that I remember well, and there are bits that I really enjoy. I will say I'm not completely where Lauren is, but you know, not wanting to give it too much away. I have seen the rewatch the next episode. I'm finding myself a little bit less on Toph's side than I remember being before, but I'm also, again, you know, I see where she's coming from and why she has the attitudes that she does. Because, you know, let's not forget that not only does she come from a bad family life and all of that stuff, but also she is a child. I would say that she's probably around the age, if maybe not a little younger than Aang. So I think the thing that I always admired about her before is that she is 100% her own individual and always has been. But there's a little bit of the attitudes that I'm like, I don't know that I really side with that so much anymore. But at the same time, I do find it an interesting character dynamic.
Yeah.
So
and perhaps I should clarify, as a matter of characterization, it's like I'm not saying it's out of character for her to do these kinds of things. Like I can understand how, in a certain sense, how she might come to the point of this is her position. I'm just saying she's wrong. It's
I mean, she might be that, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't have the right to be wrong.
Well, no, she certainly has the right. She very much has the right to be as wrong as she is in this episode. Yes, and in the next one too, by the way. So yes.
All right. Oh yes, Amanda, you did give your rating. That's right. All right. Well, then I guess it is time to go ahead and let people know how they can get in contact with us. So, of course, you can contact us at the Flying Cow Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also email at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Make sure to check out all of the shows that we have coming out. We should be starting a new season of The Academy within the next couple of months. We're doing the year 1968. Going to be very, very interesting. And make sure to check out everything we got going on the Patreon, patreon.com/theflyingcow. Lots and lots of fun. Lauren, what do you got going on?
You can find me on Twitter at Lauren Collins. And my last show wrapped, but you know, whenever you're listening to this episode, I am co-producing an all-lawyer musical in November of this year, the Atlanta Bard Show. I'm certain I'll be plugging that in future episodes too. So,
okay, all right, Amanda.
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Zelda Universe TV, and you can also find me on Twitch at Panda Princessa. And then I think we just had a new episode of the Shine Sparkers podcast go up. So Shine Sparkers, find me there too.
All right. All right. Well, like I said, we will be back next time there won't be as much of a gap as there has been. We'll be back next week with the episode Bitter. Oh. Sorry, do you guys hear that?
Yeah, I think that was mine.
Oh, okay. It's okay. We will be back next time with the episode Bitter Work. But until that time, moo.
Mm.